Welcome back to the Ed Show. In the fight against ALEC, progressives have won, I think, a big battle, but not the war. Today was a big day. The right-wing group announced that it is shutting down its work on social issues like voter suppression laws and stand-your-ground laws it has pushed throughout the country. ALEC says it will focus only on economic issues, but don't be fooled. So-called economic issues include whoppers like these: state union busting measures, repealing minimum wage laws, repealing paid sick day laws around the country, requiring a supermajority to raise taxes. How about repealing capital gains taxes? Keep in mind, ALEC has already lost 10 corporate donors, including Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Kraft, because of pressure from groups like Color of Change. The progressive group said ALEC's move is nothing more than a PR stunt aimed at diverting attention from its agenda, which has done some serious damage to our communities. Let's bring in Rashad Robinson, Executive Director of Color of Change. Good to have you with us tonight. When we first talked about this a little over a week ago, you thought that this was going to have an impact. Do you believe this group, ALEC, that they're going to change their focus when it comes to pushing legislation?
Absolutely not. The voter ID laws and the stand your ground laws are part of the larger agenda of laws that you just showed the viewers. These are all part of the same package intending to hurt our communities. But also the laws that they've worked to pass all around the country are still in place. People are still dealing with them. So essentially they've went out and basically spilt oil in the water and said, well, we're not going to spill any more oil, but we're also not going to clean it up.
Well, is this any kind of a victory? Any kind, maybe a partial victory, a move in the right direction?
Well, I think it's a signal to the corporations that are still with ALEC that ALEC's agenda was so outside of the mainstream, it was so indefensible that they're no longer going to defend it. And for corporations that continue to stand with ALEC, for the AT&Ts and the State Farms and the Johnson & Johnsons that continue to stay with ALEC even after hundreds and thousands of people have been speaking out around the country, this is a signal to them that ALEC won't even defend their position.
So what's the mission, or how is the mission going to play out by your group, Color of Change, to keep the pressure up, to follow through, to make sure that they do not push forward the template, playbook type legislation on legislators where 2,000 of them on a state level are associated with them?
Along with partners like the Center for Media and Democracy and Common Cause and a number of organizations around the country that have been engaged on this issue, we're going to continue to keep the focus on ALEC and watch state legislators, hold them accountable as well. So when they start introducing legislation that looks like ALEC legislation, they're going to have to answer to it. And also to continue the pressure on corporations. There are still well over 100 corporations that are still part of ALEC, that are still standing behind this organization, even after now they've stepped away from some of their horrendous policies.
So you've slowed them down. Have you damaged them?
I think we absolutely have damaged them. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, no one knew who ALEC was. They were a nameless, faceless organization.
Well, I think in the progressive community, I think everybody knew who ALEC was. There's been quite a bit of reporting on it by The Nation over the last year. John Nichols has done a lot on that. But you're right. I mean, the general public, you walk up to somebody and say, hey, you hear what ALEC's doing? And it wasn't until the Stand Your Ground law that got a great deal of publicity because of what unfolded, unfortunately, down in Florida, was really somewhat of an opportunity, was it not?
It was an opportunity to make the connection between our safety and our communities and the agenda that ALEC has pushed, and the larger agenda of bringing corporations and state legislators behind closed doors to push laws that no one asked for and no one wants.
All right. Well, when you take a look at your future right now, do you think that some of these corporations that have gone away from them, and there's a number of them, Coke, Pepsi, Kraft, you think they'll go back to ALEC someday, or maybe in a different form?
Well, we're going to be watching. Color of Change is not going away. You know, we were definitely David and Goliath struggling. We will continue to raise the voices of everyday people. So for the Krafts and the Cokes and the Pepsis, we commended them today and for making the right decision. But that does not mean that we will not be vigilant in monitoring their relationship with organizations like ALEC.
So it was the social media that did this?
It was certainly the use of technology and giving people the ability to not just get the information, but to use it in real time.
And you did the right thing morally?
I absolutely believe
Do they have more legislation that you are looking at that is going to be very damaging?
Yes, they have. They absolutely are continuing to push laws around mandatory minimums, around education, a number of laws that still impact our communities and still sit beside these discriminatory voter ID laws.
Well, you got to stay on them, don't you? I mean, you have to stay on them, correct? Because they're talking about, well, economic issues. Well, look at this law up in Michigan, the financial managers law, which disenfranchises everybody on a city commission or council or county commission that was voted on. If they don't have their budget right, here comes a financial manager appointed by the governor. That's an ALEC law.
And their public relations has been all over the place, Ed. Last week, they were saying that the only thing they push is economic issues. And the question that we instantly asked the AT&Ts and Johnson & Johnsons and State Farm was, what about voter suppression? Yeah. And what about stand your ground is in their economic interest? And so this week they come out and say, well, no, we're not going to push these laws anymore. They're simply all over the place. And for Americans who are watching this issue and staying tuned, we cannot trust ALEC. We cannot trust the backroom deals that they make with state legislators, the way that they move money and politics. And this is about putting sunlight around how democracy is done, making sure that all of our voices are heard, not just the rich and powerful.
Rashad Robinson, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
A group of House